Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Dom from Lensprotogo and Lens Rentals, and welcome back to the channel. So this week's video is going to be kind of a brief one because I'm just going to be rolling some sample footage I was able to take with this awesome lens. It's the Sirui 35mm 1.33 stretch factor Anamorphic. I'm going to briefly chat about this lens and what makes it so awesome, and then, like I said, I'm going to roll a whole bunch of test footage that I was able to get at SALT 2021 in Nashville last week, which is going to be awesome because there was absolutely no shortage of cool stuff down there to point this lens at. So, with that out of the way, let's break this thing down and check out some test footage. So this is a 35mm lens designed for APS-C / 35mm sensor areas, not full frame coverage like the 50mm 1.6x that Sirui just recently released. But anyways, it's a 35mm f1.8 that is a really friendly size and weight considering that it is a real front anamorphic lens. Other manufacturers in the past, when they've tried to make affordable anamorphic glass, usually pull this off by putting those cylindrical elements in the rear of the lens, and that just never really looks as good. So what Sirui is trying to do with these lenses is give you that quintessential anamorphic look from your handheld setup at an affordable price. And I think they're doing a pretty good job, and I think that's why these lenses have become so popular over the years. On a physical level, the housing of this lens is aluminum. It's extremely light at 1.25 pounds, and it's a mere 4.6 inches long. And it's got a 67mm filter thread. The aperture ring is the first ring from the lens mount, and it's got a pretty resistant response. And you can throw that entire range over about a 90-degree turn. The diaphragm itself is constructed with 10 aperture blades, and that's going to smooth out any hard geometries on the focus from this lens. As for the focus ring, completely different story. You could probably breathe on this lens and it would change focus. There is hardly any resistance there, and the total throw from close focus to infinity takes about an 180-degree turn. Speaking of close focus, this is not a macro lens by any means. The close focus distance for this lens sits about 3 feet off the front element. There are no contacts on the lens mount for camera-lens communication, and if you didn't already know this is a fully manual lens with absolutely no autofocus, and there's also no optical stabilization going on in here either. Okay, so as promised, for the rest of this video, we're going to roll a whole lot of sample footage I was able to take with this lens. But first, I want to share a sort of quirky experience type thing I had while shooting with this lens on the A7S III. So as I explained before, this lens is designed for APS-C / crop sensor coverage, and so when I put it on a full frame video camera like an A7S III, there's going to be an enormous vignette that you would get putting a crop sensor lens on a full frame camera. So easy enough, right? I'm just going to go into my camera and shoot 4K in an APS-C mode. Well, not on the Sony A7S III, I'm not. This is probably one of the only full frame cameras out there that will not allow you to take 4K video in anything less than its entire sensor area. So after a small bit of research, I learned that many users of the A7S III found out that you can go into the zoom tab, hit clear image zoom, and crop into a 1.5 times zoom to illuminate that vignetting in camera. Now this allowed me to actually compose my shots correctly without an enormous vignette on the edges of the screen. But the huge bummer here is I was originally shooting 4K video, and now it's more like 2.7K after that crop in. So I had to get that small bit of info out of the way before I actually rolled all this sample footage, which is technically like 2.7K sample footage, but I think you'll live. With that being said though, I'm really impressed with the image from this lens and camera combo. And if this was on like any single other full frame video camera, I would have been able to shoot 4K in a smaller sensor area other than full frame, but that's my mistake for missing that. So like I said, all of the test footage you're about to see was taken last week in SALT 2021 in Nashville, and there was plenty of good stuff to see there, from sunny outdoor scenes to live performances under awesome stage lighting. So I think it's going to be an all-around great showcase for this lens. So now is a part of the video where I stop talking and we check out some clips. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed some of that sample footage taken at SALT 2021 last week. Now, I want to reel this video back in by talking about some of my final thoughts about this lens. Let's get the juicy stuff out of the way first and talk about the horizontal flares and ovular bokeh. So you saw from the sample footage that when a hard light source shines directly into the lens barrel, you get that strong blue horizontal streak. But when that source is angled even a slight bit out of the lens barrel, the effect diminishes really greatly. So I think the folks over there at Sirui found a really nice balance between getting that aggressive flare, but not having it obnoxiously enter the lens when you don't even want it. Also, you surely noticed that the bokehs and out of focus area in general get that sort of spherical distortion as you look further and further from the center. And in the right circumstance, you get that clean ovular bokeh that is so quintessential to the anamorphic look. It is a bit more subtle of a look in these lenses, only being the 1.33 stretch factor. But with that being said, if you want that quintessential anamorphic look out of these lenses, you just have to work a little bit extra. Forget about the anamorphic characteristics for a second. This lens felt like operating old metal photo glass for 35mm cameras, which I really liked. For it being relatively cheaply manufactured glass, optically this lens holds up really well. It's able to pick up on natural contrast, it doesn't do anything weird with skin tones or colors in general for that matter, and if you're looking generally towards the center of the image, it's perfectly sharp. Now basically every one of those things that I mentioned starts to fall off a little bit as you get towards the edges, but that's perfectly normal for an anamorphic lens. This being the 35mm focal length, you might have noticed a little bit of wobbly distortion in some of that test footage, but it's a little bit hard to say because it was paired up with in-body image stabilization in the camera, which sometimes can interact a little strangely with that. So next time I shoot on this lens, I'll probably get it on a different setup, but this setup did have to come with me on my personal bag in an airplane, so I had to keep it pretty minimal. Yeah, so also side note there, that's a testament to the size and weight of this lens. How many anamorphic setups do you know that could fit in the personal bag on your flight? You could take it out easily and just record right out the window like it was a photo setup. Just something to chew on. Anyways, that's gonna wrap it up for this video reviewing the 35mm f1.8 1.33 stretch factor anamorphic from Sirui. So as always, if you have any questions about this lens or that weird clear image zoom trick with the Sony A7S III, you know what to do. Drop a comment in the comment section below and we'll start a discussion. Also, if you happen to like this video, hit that thumbs up button down below to let me know you liked it. And if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. And that way, you'll be in the loop whenever we post new content, which is every week. So take care, and we'll see you in the next one.